Okay, so I need to tell you about this crazy story that's been on my mind for weeks. So there's this person I know, Olive. She's a total sweetheart, always had a great smile and an infectious laugh. We went to high school together, and from what I've seen in her online life, she's still got that same energy and charm going on. Anyway, so Olive met this guy Kieran online, and at first, it seemed like they just clicked. They started talking, exchanging messages, and before long, they were inseparable. Or so it seemed. What Olive didn't tell me, or anyone else I think, was that she had a little experiment in mind. She wanted to see how far Kieran would take things, if he'd really commit to her. Which what? I know what you're thinking, isn't that just a pretty weird thing to do? But Olive swore it was all about testing his loyalty and dedication. So she played the part of this perfect girlfriend, posting all these cute pics on social media, making sure Kieran thought she was the only one for him. And at first, it seemed like he was totally buying into it. But here's where things get interesting, or disturbing, depending on how you look at it. Olive started to manipulate Kieran, making herself seem more and more invested in their relationship. She'd send him long texts, telling him all about her feelings and desires, making him believe she was the one he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. And the weird thing is, Kieran actually fell for it. Or so I'm told. See, Olive kept everything from me, not just her online antics, but even some pretty heavy stuff that went down in their relationship. She wouldn't talk about it, no matter how many times I brought it up. And when I finally did find out what had been going on, let's just say it was a real eye-opener. I'm not gonna lie, my first reaction was shock and disgust. How could someone do that to another person? But as I started digging deeper, I realized that Olive's actions might have actually been more complex than they initially seemed. She'd played Kieran so perfectly, he actually started to doubt his own feelings about us. It was like she manipulated him into thinking he was the one who was crazy. Which is still hard for me to wrap my head around. I mean, Olive and I had a real relationship, or at least, we thought we did. We were friends, confidants, everything. But in hindsight, it all makes sense now. Kieran started pulling away from us, acting like he was too busy to hang out, and eventually, he broke things off with me. It's been a tough few months since then. Olive and I haven't spoken, not even a single time. And I'm still trying to process everything that went down between them. I know I should be angry, or hurt, but honestly, it feels like I'm just so lost. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Olive's catfishing scheme began to unravel. Kieran started receiving suspicious messages from an unknown number, and he couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. He tried talking to Olive about it, but she just brushed him off, saying she was busy with school. Meanwhile, I had been quietly observing the situation from afar. I knew Olive's behavior didn't add up. She was too confident in her lies, too quick to deflect any questions. And then, one day, I saw a post on social media that made my heart sink. It was a picture of Olive and Kieran together, taken at a concert last summer, with a caption that read, "Love of my life." My mind racing, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All those times we hung out, all those late-night conversations, it was all just a facade. Olive had been playing me from the very beginning, and Kieran, poor Kieran, was caught right in the middle. I tried to process my emotions, but they were swirling inside me like a storm. I reached out to Kieran, finally breaking the silence between us. We met up for coffee, and I could see the guilt written all over his face. He told me everything that had happened, how Olive had created this elaborate lie, how he'd fallen for it hook, line, and sinker. It was like watching a nightmare come to life. But as we talked, I realized that there was more to the story than just Olive's catfishing. Kieran mentioned Nadia, his new girlfriend, who seemed perfect on paper, smart, beautiful, kind, but also eerily controlling. He told me how she'd been pushing him away from us, making him feel guilty for having feelings for Olive in the first place. I felt like I was stuck in a bad movie where nothing made sense anymore. Olive's betrayal still stung, but now I had to confront this new reality, that Kieran might be using Nadia as some kind of revenge on me. It was too much to handle. My mind was racing with questions and doubts, and I wasn't sure if I'd ever be able to make sense of it all. As we parted ways, Kieran's eyes locked onto mine, filled with a desperate plea for help. "We need to get to the bottom of this," he said, his voice laced with urgency. "We can't let Olive ruin everything." But before I could respond, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from an unknown number, a message that made my heart skip a beat. I stared at the screen, my mind reeling as I read the words, "You're not who you think you are." My eyes scanned the message, searching for any clue, but there were none. It was just a simple sentence, yet it felt like the weight of the world had been dropped onto my shoulders. I took a deep breath and tried to process what this could mean. Was Kieran telling the truth? Had Olive been playing me all along? The more I thought about it, the more my mind spun with possibilities. I needed answers, but the only way to get them was by confronting Olive head-on. As I stood there, frozen in indecision, Kieran's voice cut through my thoughts. "What is it?" he asked, his eyes searching mine for any sign of understanding. I hesitated, unsure of how to break the news. Finally, I took a deep breath and handed him my phone. The text message was still displayed on the screen, and Kieran's expression changed from curiosity to shock in an instant. "What does it say?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I showed him the message again, and this time, he read it with a mixture of sadness and regret. "It can't be," he muttered, shaking his head. I knew she was trouble. He took a step closer to me, his eyes pleading for forgiveness. "I'm so sorry, Nadia. I had no idea she was playing you like this." I felt a lump form in my throat as I looked up at Kieran. His words were laced with genuine remorse, and for the first time since the whole ordeal began, I saw him not as an enemy but as a friend who had been manipulated by Olive's cunning. We stood there in silence for a moment, the tension between us dissipating as we processed what had happened. Finally, Kieran spoke up again. "I think it's time we confronted Olive together." His words were firm, and I knew that this was just the beginning of a long journey to uncover the truth. With newfound determination, we set out to find Olive, ready to face whatever lay ahead. As we walked away from the spot where our relationship had imploded, I couldn't help but feel a sense of closure. The mystery surrounding Olive's actions was finally starting to unravel, and it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. But just as things were starting to make sense again, a new question popped into my mind: what other secrets had Olive been hiding? I pushed the thought aside for now, focusing on the present moment. Kieran and I were in this together, and we would face whatever came next side by side. As we disappeared into the distance, I couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude towards Kieran. Without him, I might still be stuck in the same cycle of hurt and betrayal. Instead, he had become my rock, my confidant, and my ally in this wild ride of self-discovery. "I'm just glad we found out the truth," I said to myself as I walked away from the scene, a mix of emotions swirling inside me. But deep down, I knew that this was only the beginning, a new chapter in our lives, one where trust and honesty would be essential. I took one last look over my shoulder, watching Kieran walk into the distance with his head held high. For once, he looked at peace, like he had finally found closure too.